All right, so I've been working on a new intro. It's a brand new intro. You guys got to let me know what you think about it, right? Because I might actually have this as my slogan on Patreon and for my future website coming up and for the intro for the show. So let me know what you guys think. But yeah, adding a twist into the fantasy football world. Fantasy Intervention focuses on in-depth analysis, rarely covered by your average fantasy show. We dive into the measurements, metrics, and analytics and serve it up in a fashion that's easy to swallow. This content is made for those who can handle their liquor and still know how to have a good time. Woo! What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Is it too cheesy? I feel like it's a little cheesy. I don't know. I like it. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Dave. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I am very in-depth. But yeah, if you guys missed it, go back and listen to it at the beginning of the show. But yeah, that's going to be my new intro, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, what's going on, guys? Welcome on into Fantasy Intervention. Thank you for joining our circle today. And guess what? Guess what time it is? Guess what season it is? You guys ready for it? Andy Isabella season! Let's go, baby. Let's go. 2 touchdowns. 2 touchdowns. Oh, it never tasted so sweet. It never tasted so sweet. Oh, man. This is the last time I'm going to be able to take a victory lap on this. This is going to be it. And then it's back to the normal wear and tear of me trying to find people that are actually going to produce. But this week, it was Andy Isabella, and he crushed it. 2 touchdowns, like 43 yards. And the thing with Andy Isabella is every time that he has a chance to produce, he typically does. And he's a guy that needs volume. You know, we got to have Kyler Murray actually seeing him on the field. But with 15 catches, he's taken those 15 catches for 303 yards. That's 20.2 yards per carry and 3 total touchdowns over his career. He just needs a chance. This guy is ultra hyper athletic, right? Ultra hyper, not just ultra and not just hyper, ultra hyper athletic. He's extremely fast and he does great with the ball in his hands. You know, we saw him break a tackle and able to get in the end zone. I love Andy Isabella. Absolutely love it. They just need to get him more snaps, right? I was a little bit concerned about his usage and my bold prediction that he would outproduce Fitzgerald this year, but it's clear that he needs to be involved in this offense. He is that good of a receiver. You know, hopefully Cliff Kingsbury actually sees this moving forward. And, I like his chances up against Carolina if Kirk misses time. But do they put Christian Kirk back in the lineup? I mean, honestly, like the way that they're using Christian Kirk is just bizarre to me, right? He runs a 4.4 740 and he's 5'10". So he's not like a Mike Williams type body build where he can go up and get the ball for the deep targets. And he also doesn't have wheels on him, like, of course, Andy Isabella does. But yet, they're throwing the ball down the field. His average target distance is number 1 in the NFL with 20.4 yards per target. 20.4 yards per target. That's crazy to me. Why is Christian Kirk doing that? Christian Kirk is a slot receiver. He needs the ball close to the line. Unfortunately, with Hopkins coming in, right, it kicked Christian Kirk out of that slot role because Larry Fitzgerald pretty much has to play the slot now. So when they run 4 wide, you have, of course, DeAndre Hopkins and Larry Fitzgerald. That forces Christian Kirk on the outside, and Christian Kirk is he's not a deep threat. He's not that guy. It makes zero sense to me. How is a guy that's not overly fast and doesn't have a build, get put into that outside role? But it is what it is. Right now they obviously think that Christian Kirk is a better wide receiver than Andy Isabella. I think Andy Isabella had something to say about it this week. I think he did. What do you guys think? Absolutely. Yeah. All right, so here's what I wish would happen. I wish that the Cardinals would actually trade Kirk, right? Let Andy Isabella assume that deep role and let Keyshawn Johnson assume the Fitzgerald role when Fitzgerald's ready to move on, which who knows if he ever does. I mean, he's pretty much the Frank Gore of the wide receivers. We don't know if he's ever going to leave the game. He could be 48 and playing and still getting touchdowns for the Cardinals over there. But the thing is with Christian Kirk is you could probably get a 5th or 6th rounder for him, and there's plenty of teams that need Christian Kirk, right? We talk about the Eagles, the Jets, both those, wide receiver corps are completely depleted. Like, it's brutal over there for the Jets and for the Eagles, of course. Another team, what about Washington? Washington doesn't really have a second wide receiver. John Inman, sure, give it to him for now, but he's not a long-term answer for the wide receiver position over there in Washington. Antonio Gandy Golden, sure, if he develops, but he's a 4th round, went to a small school. So Antonio Gandy-Golden's he's probably the furthest thing from being guaranteed. Meanwhile, you could slide Christian Kirk in, and he can split snaps in the slot with of course, Terry McLaurin. Although Terry McLaurin does primarily play on the outside, he still slides in the slot from time to time. And honestly, I think Washington's dumb enough to give a 4th rounder for him. I mean, they give a 5th rounder for Kyle Allen, which, by the way, is interesting as well. It's baffling to me. They could have had Cam Newton for free. Instead, they trade a 5th rounder for Kyle Allen. It's crazy. And Washington has been known to just make dumb transaction after dumb transaction, even with Ron Rivera coming in this new regime. So I think you could fit in with Washington and actually gain value. But yeah, it's just bizarre. It's also bizarre that they drafted, of course, Dwayne Haskins, who is actually now getting pressure, from the organization. They said the organization is having conversations about possibly inserting the backup if Dwayne Haskins struggles again next week. Now, I don't think any player is actually going to be able to make it with that offensive line. I really don't. That offensive line is absolutely torn up. It's brutal. Obviously trading away Trent Williams was a huge hit, but they had to. He wasn't going to play for him. But I mean, it's bad news, especially with Brandon Sheriff out. Like, I don't think any quarterback's going to make it over there in Washington. And it kind of scares me if Washington does end up losing for that organization, because if they go in and they end up with the 1st overall pick somehow, even with that, dominant defense, you could see them drafting Trevor Lawrence, and behind that offensive line, you're going to get Trevor Lawrence killed. You are. But I just wanted to bring up Andy Isabella because I love Andy Isabella, and I think that he should get more opportunities, and I smashed that. Now, I did whiff on something big, right? It was another dart throw wide receiver, Darnell Mooney. And him and Mitch Trubisky and him and Nick Foles, they just couldn't connect. He saw 5 targets. He outsnapped Anthony Miller, who was on the field, but that just resulted in 2 catches and an overall disappointing, performance. So I like Mooney. I do. And I don't know if it's much better with Nick Foles, over, of course, Mitch Trubisky, but I can't drop him yet. Right? He's got Indy, he's got Carolina, he's got Minnesota, and he's got Tennessee on his upcoming schedule. Now, those games are, kind of spread out, of course, but I like a few of these matchups with Mooney, and with him still out snapping. He still outsnapped Anthony Miller. I mean, he could assume a massive role. Like, he could actually be that guy if he can make 2 or 3 plays in this upcoming, couple games or so with this upcoming slate. And then imagine if Allen Robinson obviously gets hurt, you're talking about, increasing his targets to 10 or 12. So although I did miss on Mooney this past week, unfortunately, I am holding on Mooney. So yeah, I like him this week. Let me go ahead and turn this banner off, or this ticker off, and get back to the show sheet. All right. On to something that I did nail, right? And that's the Giants running back situation. And I didn't get it last week. I didn't get it when everybody's saying, go pick up Freeman, go lay $25 fab dollars on him, $35. Go get Gallman, go get Deion Lewis. It didn't make sense to me. It didn't make sense. You're talking about a terrible offensive line, and none of those guys have big playability. Saquon Barkley was fantasy relevant back 2 years ago because he led the league in big plays, because they stacked the box because they couldn't pass the ball. Meanwhile, Saquon Barkley can break tackles. He has the speed to beat the ends to the outside, and he was making big plays. Outside of that, if you take away those big plays from Saquon Barkley, he was actually overall unimpressive outside of the passing game. You sit there and you put Deion Lewis, you put Devonta Freeman, right? You put Wayne Gallman in there. It's not going to work out. It's not going to work out for any one of these guys. And right now we're talking about an RBBC. So with them being in a running back by committee, like what do we expect? What do we expect to happen? Right? I mean, by the time they figure out who's going to be the lead back there, like if Devonta Freeman, takes over the lead back role, they've got a stretch of some really tough games. Like, they got Washington, who has one of the best defensive lines in the league. They got the Eagles, who has one of the best defensive lines in the league. They've got the Bucks, who I believe were number 1 up against the running back last season, and they didn't lose anybody. They've got the Eagles again, and then they've got Washington, and then they got a bye week. When are you going to play Devonta Freeman? When are you going to play him? His final game is up against your championship game. If you make it all the way there, they're up against Baltimore. You got no shot. You got no shot to play him. I just don't understand that. And that's honestly, like, if you have a guy that's going to end up on your bench for 6 straight weeks and then not going to play in your championship game, that's what you call a roster clog. You're literally not allowing other guys who have the upside to find a way on your roster. And those guys can end up, winning you leagues towards the tail end of the season. I'd rather waste a spot on a handcuff this year than on a starter in Devonta Freeman. But that's just me. That's just me. I nailed it this week. Let's see if I can nail it again for the upcoming weeks because I just don't get it. All right. Now, I did bomb another. Actually, yeah, I bombed Thursday night. Thursday night was brutal for me. I did not see that game going that way. I did hit on James Robinson. I hit on Myles Gaskin, but I bombed the receiving game over there in Jacksonville. I did not see that coming. But typically I don't bring up the Thursday night sheets because I do a podcast after Thursday night and I talk about it normally then. So I did go through my show sheets because I was trying to find, some of the other stuff that I bombed. I like to talk about, the previous week and try and find a solution for, why something went a certain way, why it went away that it did. And, hopefully I don't make that same mistake later. But I mean, I couldn't really find anything. Like we nailed Wilson. We nailed Cup. We nailed Braxton Berrios. We nailed the DFS show as a whole. We said that Mike Davis would be serviceable, and not spend too much fab on Herbert, but he still should be owned, on the back end, probably post waivers. We pretty much nailed almost everything except for the one that's going to haunt my dreams forever. It's literally going to be in my nightmares. Drew Sample and that eye connection with Burrow. Man, that was disappointing. Joe Burrow threw it 44 times. Sample saw one target. Burrow, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. One target? Oh my God. The backup tight end who had 9 snaps compared to Sample's 64 saw the same exact fantasy output. 1 catch for 1 yard. What the hell? Oh man, I'm freaking out because the Eagles gave up 3 touchdowns. I'm sorry, the Eagles gave up 3 touchdowns the week before to Higbee and 54 yards. The week before that, they gave up a touchdown to Logan Thomas. What's happening right now? I'm in the twilight zone. Why? Why did Sample not get more targets? It's driving me nuts. You had 5 quarters. You had 64 opportunities with Sample on the field to get him the ball, and you did it 1 time. The connection was there before. Burrow liked the tight end. I thought he did. What the fuck am I missing? It's going to drive me nuts. It's going to haunt me, and it's going to drive me nuts because I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. The thing is, you can't quit on Sample. The process was right, in my opinion. We just didn't get the results. We saw a position that they were very weak at defending when it comes to the Eagles. We saw the targets go to the tight end in the previous 2 weeks. We saw the air yards there. We saw all the opportunity we wanted to see, the previous weeks, and it just didn't come to fruition this week. And I'm bummed out. So if you watch the Eagles game, please let me know what happened because I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry because I really wanted Sample to be a thing. I really did. Why is he not a thing? It's gonna drive me nuts. All right. All right. Got to get back on it. I'm going to bring up the waivers, guys. A lot of people do have a lot of questions about the waivers this week. So before I do, make sure you guys do end up checking out linktr.ee/fantasy intervention. That's where you're going to find my Patreon, where I give you DFS lineups, which I hit on big time on Sunday. You're going to find all my articles that I write for Dynasty Happy Hour, Dynasty Nerds, and the Pregame HQ. Pregame HQ is, of course, my DFS stuff. And then, you're going to find all the platforms that you're available to hear me on, right? You also need to make sure that you're watching on YouTube. Go down and hit subscribe, please. Hit subscribe. Go subscribe to the show. Make sure that you give it reviews if you're listening to it on Apple iTunes, Stitcher, Castbox, or Google Play. And let's go ahead and get this kicked off with the waiver wires. So a lot of people are talking about blowing a lot of fab this week again. And it's very similar to last week where you have a couple key plays in there. For example, Carlos Hyde, who we'll talk about here in a second, where I think that you should actually go out and get Carlos Hyde. This is, a team that they're spreading out defenses. I like their upcoming schedule. I think that Hyde is going to be a lock to get absolute opportunity. But there are some other guys that I just don't understand, why they're being brought up, and we're going to bring up a few of them here in a little bit. But just keep in mind, guys, this is a long, long season, and we're still going to have a lot of injuries come up. And there could be some major, major opportunity later to grab some bigger name guys. If Ezekiel Elliott goes down and Tony Pollard comes in and he's on your waivers and you just blew your load on Devonta Freeman and, I don't know, let's just say Brian Hill, right? Like that's not where you want to go. You're not going to have enough left over for those Tony Pollard. And then if you do, and you do submit a huge amount for Tony Pollard, dude, you're talking about not having anything left at the tail end of the season when you go to make your playoff run. And the guy that saved his money that is in the playoffs is going to block you. He's going to cock block you, and you're not going to be able to get your guys. So yeah, just don't go and blow your load in week 3 of the season. It's a very, very long season, guys, and there's a lot of opportunities that should come up. So let's go ahead and talk about my streams first for the quarterback position, because I didn't see, there wasn't like a standout quarterback that I wanted to go and throw all my fab at this week. You know, like Kyle Allen's not going to be a thing. I don't care if Haskins does get benched, you know, unless you're in 2 quarterback leagues, that's a waste of fab. In single quarterbacks, you can just go and stream. But I did see people like actually saying, oh, you should go put 15% of your fab on Kyle Allen. It's like, why? That doesn't make any sense. He's not going to be good. So anyways, we have Goff up against the Giants this upcoming week. Goff just had a very, very big game, a massive game, which, you know, you guys will hear Mike probably talk about tomorrow night on our Wednesday night show. So Goff is absolutely an option up against the Giants this week. He is on, I think, 60% of waivers right now. I think he's available in 60% of the leagues, at least on ESPN from what I saw. Fitzpatrick is another guy with a great matchup. I believe, are they playing Dallas this week? I think they're playing Dallas. You're talking about a massive week from Fitzpatrick last week, and I think that he continues the trend. The Miami Dolphins are going to have to score some points. Fitzpatrick's going to be a big part of that, and teams have been able to pass all over Dallas. So I like Fitzpatrick as a stream if Goff is not available. Or wait, no, it's Baker up against Dallas this week. I apologize, but I know it's a sweet matchup. Whatever matchup it was. I don't have it in front of me. Baker's up against Dallas, so Baker has an absolute smash spot. I do think Chubb is going to produce. I do think that Hunt is going to produce. Oh, Fitz is up against, thank you very much, Mike. Thank you very much. It's Seattle. So yeah, Fitz is up against Seattle. That's a juicy matchup. I knew it was a high-scoring matchup. But anyways, Baker's up against Dallas. I think that Hunt is, of course, going to have to score. And I think that Chubb is going to score. And I think that Baker is actually going to put the ball in his playmaker's hands. Odell Beckham should absolutely have a week for himself. I'm really anticipating that. He showed that he had that chemistry pickup at the tail end of, or I guess at the, you know, last week 3's matchup. But anyways, I like Baker Mayfield to have a big week. Now, on to a little bit more in-depth analysis and some quarterback streams. We got Carlos Hyde and Myles Gaskin. They're 2 obvious answers right off the bat that I'm going to be playing in a lot of lineups. I mean, Gaskin last week caught a ton of passes. He's obviously the leader in that backfield. It's not Breida. It's not Howard. And although Howard should, you know, vulture some goal line touches like he has every single week so far this season, I still think that Gaskin is a smash play in a lot of different lineups coming up. Miami's going to be playing from behind. Gaskin is obviously a massive part of this passing game. Gaskin is a lock play for me in a lot of lineups coming up this, you know, over the next few weeks. Carlos Hyde, meanwhile, we already talked about it. He's a big piece of this offense. We saw Chris Carson be involved with the passing game. There's no reason to expect Carlos Hyde won't be as well. He actually proved to be an okay receiver last year for the Texans, and although he's not known as that, he still can be serviceable. So I like Carlos Hyde as a big-time pickup. For Gaskin, I'm probably throwing like 25% of my fab if he's out there, maybe more, maybe 30%. On Carlos Hyde, I'm going to take it a little bit easier because we do have Rashad Penny coming back, and I think that he is actually a pickup and stash right now. I think you should throw, 5% of your fab at him. But Carlos Hyde, I'd probably throw like 10 to 15%. I believe Chris Carson's coming back at some point. But yeah, Carlos Hyde right now is a smash play. Meanwhile, we have Homer over there, Travis Homer, who's the only other running back to get snaps. I know that DJ Dallas, I believe, should be promoted from the practice squad if he hasn't already. However, I like Homer. He produced extremely well last year in multiple different matchups. So I think it could happen again. He's going to be a massive asset in this passing game. I think more so than Carlos Hyde is. However, he's not going to get first and second down work. So you have to assume that he's going to be, only playable in games that the Seattle Seahawks aren't going to be blowing teams out. But I think that he is worth, a couple bucks. I might wait and see if he actually makes it past waivers, to be honest with you. Brian Hill, I don't love him. Like, I'm not saying go out there and throw, half your fab at him or anything, or even 20% of your fab. but 2-3%, maybe 5% at the most. He got 12 touches, and he looks like the more explosive back in Atlanta, to be honest with you. He really did. Now, they do have the Packers next week, and the Packers gave up a ton of work to the running back. It's a super sexy matchup. I think that you can see some receptions too. But don't forget, Gurley is that lead back over there. So play him if you need to, but don't get too cute. Like if you're an owner that had, Chris Carson as your running back, and you had another running back go out, maybe Marlon Mack or something, you need a guy, like you really need a guy. Sure, Brian Hill, he's worth a pickup, but don't get too cute. Like I'm not saying go play Brian Hill over even Gurley, for example, but yeah, I like Brian Hill as a back end option if you need a guy. Now for the wide receivers, I think Higgins is interesting. He might be a little bit too rich for my blood on the waivers, but I still like him. So I would throw something out there, around the 5 or 6%, but I wouldn't go out there and unload, right? He's Jacksonville this upcoming week, which is great. But then he has Baltimore, he has Indy, which is, hit or miss. He has Cleveland with Denzel Ward, and then Tennessee is okay. I mean, after that, it's a bye week, and then it's Pittsburgh. So Tennessee is really the only one that I feel really good about playing him in. Outside of that, I don't really love him overall. I think he's worth throwing a buck out there just to see what happens, $1, $2 in fab, and see if you can get him, before the waivers clear. But yeah, I'm not going to throw a ton of money at Higgins. When it comes to Justin Jefferson, I'm a little bit concerned about his volume, but he should already be owned. He really should, guys. Like, he was a first-round draft pick. I know it's a rookie, but Justin Jefferson was bound to hit. I mean, Adam Thielen's the only other receiver there. Kyle Rudolph's not a main asset. Irv Smith Jr. is kind of proven to not be what I hoped he was going to be at the beginning of the season. But Justin Jefferson just went off, and now you're going to have to pay for him. Because he got 175 yard in his performance week 3. You're going to have to pay for him now. Now, am I going to go out and throw $25 at him, or 20% of my budget? No, fuck no. But I could actually see myself doing, 8 to 10% if I absolutely need a wide receiver. KJ Hamler, another rookie. Didn't mean to line up all rookies here, but KJ Hamler, he's up against the Jets. So this could be an amazing smash spot for him. He, was pretty subpar up against Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay's defense is far, far better than the Jets. So I might throw $1, $2 out at KJ Hamler. He, arguably is the lead receiver over there now with Cortland Sutton out. Obviously, he's going to be fighting for targets with Tim Patrick, who I also think he should throw a buck out for. But yeah, I like KJ Hamler. I think that he could be, a smash spot up against the Jets this week. Greg Ward is at it again, baby. Greg Ward is at it again. The Eagles lost Deshaun Jackson to a hammy this past week, which leaves Greg Ward is reborn. I love Greg Ward. I think that Greg Ward is like the most overrated yet underrated player that you could have out there, right? I mean, he's overrated in the sense that people think that he's actually a starting caliber wide receiver, but he's underrated in the fact that he is actually a starting caliber wide receiver. He just doesn't have the athletic measurables that would lead you to believe that he is. But he's reliable. He's got good, solid hands. He's not going to drop the ball like J-Jaw, which, by the way, what happened with J-Jaw last week? He, I think, who was it? Rosenfeld? Who's the GM over there? Went up to him, talked to J-Jaw real quick, and then J-Jaw from the pre-games went to the locker room. I'm kind of curious to see what happened. I believe he was a scratch. So, yeah, if you know anything, let me know. But anyways, I think that Greg Ward is absolutely the receiver to own right now over there. You can make a case for Hightower. You can make a case for Quez Watkins. But, yeah, I like Greg Ward. Now, do keep in mind that the schedule is brutal over the next 3 weeks. But I kind of like him as a stash. I mean, he's on an injury-prone wide receiver corps, centered team. I like Greg Ward. It's a super, super easy matchup after this upcoming 3 weeks. Now, after that, we have Isaiah Ford, who I wanted to go off up against Jacksonville. He didn't give me what I wanted, but he's still a good option. Seattle struggles up against the slot significantly, and Isaiah Ford is that slot guy. He's the guy that's getting the snaps. I like Isaiah Ford to have an explosive week up against Seattle, and I love the idea of pairing Fitzpatrick if you stream quarterbacks with Isaiah Ford. I think it's going to be an absolute shootout. Now, Mo Alley Cox. Mo Alley Cox is a thing, and I love it. I love Mo Alley Cox. Like, I've been sitting here talking about this guy for years now, and I believe a lot of other podcasts, or shows out there have too. So I'm kind of excited for it to happen for the fantasy industry as a whole. I've have him in, like I said, multiple different leagues. I've been a truther on him for about 2 to 3 years now. The dude's massive. He has great hands, and he's been used as a blocker primarily for the start of his career. However, I believe that they're going to unleash him. Obviously, with Pittman now going down, they're going to need options in the red zone. And man, Mo Alley-Cox could be a smash play from here on out. I love Mo Alley-Cox. Love it. And I'm stoked. I could not be more excited to see him actually finding a role. All right, on to the last segment, guys. We have keep your eye on the bye. Wahoo. I love keep your eye on the bye, and I hate keep your eye on the bye as well. Just a side note, keep an eye on the Tennessee Titans right now. The Tennessee Titans are actually getting shut down because of COVID. And I forget who they have this week, but there's a good chance that this game might not happen. So they could push it back to like week 7, try and switch up the schedule a little bit. I don't know how they're going to handle this. I'm very interested to see moving forward. But yeah, keep an eye. That's real sketch with the Tennessee Titans situation. I'm interested to see what happens. But anyways, we do have 2 teams on a bye this week, right? Yes, we do. We have, of course, up first the Detroit Lions. Let me make sure I got this right. The Detroit Lions. So if you have Kenny Golladay in your lineups, right? You got Matt Stafford in your lineups. You got Marvin Jones Jr. in your lineups. Make sure you guys keep an eye on them and get them out of your lineups. But of course, people could actually drop guys like Marvin Jones Jr. So keep an eye on the post waiver wires and see if they dropped, guys like Marvin Jones Jr. to go scoop them up, because injuries this year are real, of course. And yeah, these bye weeks are going to make some crazy post waiver wire acquisitions, exist this upcoming year. So that's my thought for the Lions. Of course, I'm coming. It's loading. I believe it's Green Bay. It's Green Bay week 4 or week 5. I'm sorry, it's week 5. I'm an idiot. It's week 5. My bad, guys. My bad. And I don't have it up. Yeah, so I guess I'm going to skip that because it's week 5. I'm stupid. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for the show. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for letting me intervene with your fantasy football life. I'm out.